Now in the middle of one of the most significant eras in automotive, Carl Anthony amplifies the minds and voices behind this historic transformation as the host of AutoVision News Radio.
Mic check 1, 2.
All while coming to terms with middle age, father loss, and what it means to be successful in Detroit.
Let's imagine that you are an automaker. For fun, take your last name and add Motors or Motor Company to it. You're about to release 3 important vehicles for your brand. An economical yet sporty sedan, a 3-row family-friendly SUV, and a rugged 4x4 truck. With the sedan, you want to emphasize its value, be it the reasonable starting MSRP or fuel economy. It's a good car for a first-time buyer, likewise a good option for someone who needs an efficient daily driver. Something to get to work and back, to run errands, to pick up the kids or grandkids. The photos and videos of this small sedan that you will use for your marketing and sales efforts need to reflect this. So perhaps we want to show this sedan outside a house or an apartment complex or a local park. Additional video footage may show it cruising around downtown on a busy morning and how easy it is to park. You also have the optional sport package. That's a fan favorite, so we need to show some shots of the rear spoiler and the sleek aluminum alloy wheels, maybe as the sedan turns a corner, as onlookers admire the cherry red paint. With your 3-row SUV, you want to emphasize the dynamic in-vehicle environment. Your photos and videos need to capture the way the panoramic roof opens up and lets the outside light in. The seamless operation of the infotainment features, the way the rear hatch opens automatically, and the way the 3rd row folds neatly to allow for all sorts of cargo and gear. Maybe we can do some cool flyby with a drone and a camera, and we look down and we see a family below with the SUV enjoying an afternoon picnic and evening fireworks. We then cut to the dusty gravel roads of a Midwest farmer headed over yonder to fix fence and check up on cattle. The camera is positioned over the big tow mirrors. There's a pallet of seed corn in the bed or a flat trailer with hay bales. We may also want to show a local tradesperson dropping their kids off at school. A big Carhartt jacket in the front seat and a pair of Red Wing 606 style boots. The parent and their kids exchange one last wave before they head to the crosswalk. It's a long day ahead for sure, but under that tonneau cover are the tools they have used to forge this life. Meanwhile, a group of friends has piled in your crew cab truck for the weekend, hoping to make a nickel off of turning them bass, because like the Luke Bryan song, they live by a certain prayer that every country boy prays. 3 different vehicles, 3 different buyers, 3 different product launches, but each one is vital. You will need all of the visual assets you plan to use on stage during the live unveilings, plus an archive of press photos and videos for journalists. Those visual assets will likely be different than the ones you plan to use on your website and in your advertising and social media campaigns once each vehicle goes on sale. So there is some coordination that will need to happen. You'll need to get your sedan, SUV, and truck to each individual location, from a bustling downtown to the tall cornfields. Shoot at the right time of day, hope the weather cooperates, hope your equipment cooperates, try not to damage the vehicles, try not to damage any of your equipment. Also avoid getting lost in the middle of nowhere on the way to your shooting location on some no-name road. Avoid the spy shot crowd, all while staying ahead of schedule and under budget on each individual vehicle launch, or you could use computer-generated imagery, often written as CGI for short. As described in an article from Adobe, link in the show notes, CGI is a subcategory of visual effects referring to scenes, effects, and images created with computer software. In animations, CGI can be used to create new worlds, for example in popular films, like Pixar's Toy Story or Disney's Frozen. Quoting from that Adobe article further, CGI removes the need for complex, expensive, and time-consuming manual animation and allows artists far greater freedom to work outside the confines of 2D. With our example of the 3 upcoming vehicle launches, CGI allows us to create all of the visual assets that we would need without traveling to multiple locations. CGI gives us modular asset creation, where we can place our sedan at the park, but switch out the time of day or year. Likewise, we can place our truck on the highway in a crew cab configuration with 20-inch wheels, pulling a boat in one instance, and then change that out in the next instance to an extended cab model with an ATV in the bed. This means we don't have to try and come up with 2 different trucks plus a boat and an ATV. CGI can handle this for us. When it comes to CGI for the automotive industry, few people know the topic better than Faruk Heplevent, founder of The Scope, an innovative company that uses cutting-edge CGI technology to create visual assets for vehicle launches and advertisements, just like the ones we've been talking about. In 1990, Faruk began assisting professional photographers, first with still life images, then advertising, and eventually automotive photography. By 1999, Faruk was working for major automakers, creating visuals on their behalf that would drive brand awareness. In 2007, he founded The Scope, later coining the term CG photography, or using computer software to take pictures. In 2022, Faruk and his team released The Scope City, a computer-generated city building tool that allows OEMs to generate an entire personalized urban landscape for their vehicles. Not just a one-off background or a single location, but a whole virtual city for a car to drive. Visual assets that can be produced by the Scope City are limited only by one's imagination. OEMs could have a city that resembles New York or Los Angeles or Chicago, complete with bridges and skyscrapers. Faruk has worked with Audi, BMW, Chrysler, Hyundai, Lincoln, and Toyota, among others, and when he's not bringing his incredible visions into reality for these brands, Faruk enjoys spending time with his wife and 4 sons in Germany. We begin with a brief history of why automakers started looking at CGI as a viable option.
Moving at the speed of mobility, this is AutoVision News Radio with Carl Anthony in Detroit, Michigan.
Automotive clients had a very good understanding of data. They started designing in CAD, computer-aided design, very early, and saw the value in using those assets. That started as early as 2005 in Germany. Back then, I was still working as a car photographer. This is my background. I learned photography in the still life studio and then developed into car photographer. An actual car shoot is a complex endeavor. Then if you add a prototype car to the whole setting that is to be kept secret, it gets really, really complicated. What would happen is that manufacturers would build cars just for the shoots, for the film and photo shoot. Cost them about $1 million a pop. The car that they produce for that, they would destroy afterwards because it didn't have a serial number. You were not allowed to put it on a real street. So it was just, a huge investment to get pictures and film. So, when they said, oh, well, we can do that in the computer, they were the first ones to embrace it.
Before the Scope, Faruk, before we get to this part of your career, I want to go back to 1990. Take us through this part of your life. There's about a 9-year period there between 1990 and 1999 when you started working for top car brands. Take us back to that area of your life, that time in your life.
So 1990, I finished school. But while I was in school, I was already working as an intern for photographers. After school, I decided not to study, but to go work. And a way to learn photography back in the day was, it's a kind of apprenticeship, right? It's called assisting. So you work as an assistant. You start as a second or third assistant and work your way up. I assisted for quite a long time, but towards the end, when I was working with car photographers and car productions, there was already, let's say, that assisting was, serious work. A lot of responsibilities, well paid, and many of my friends actually didn't take the step to become a photographer. They stayed very good assistants, right? First assistants. Right. But, essentially learning years, and in the 90s compared to now, the production was a very complex endeavor. You were shooting on film. So you had to expose film. You needed to get film to the lab, have it processed. You were usually shooting on transparencies that could be printed, not on negative, which meant that your margin of error was very, very small. So 1/3 of a stop, if you missed that, it was, misexposed, so to speak, right? So it was not correct. It was too bright, too dark. The professional productions would use 8x10 film or 4x5. And, so the sheet of film was 8x10 inches. And obviously very expensive. And you have these big cameras that you need to set up and put the car and expose and block traffic. So getting a picture already was quite a challenge. And was, technically it was very complex, reading lights, the location scouting was complex because, if you imagine you're scouting a location in March, but your shoot is planned for May. So the sun position is going to be different.
Right.
So I was capable of using these, Boy Scout kind of, the height of the sun and the position, and I could read all these sun charts. And you actually, you would have to buy these charts because there was no app for it, right? No app. So you're like, oh, okay, I need a chart for Los Angeles for 1992 because next year is different. So once you're on location, you could tell the photographer, okay, the sun is rising here. It's going to be there, 7:45. This is where your shot is. So you need to prepare for all these things. It was a complicated mission, let's put it that way. Compared to that, what we're doing now, digital photography, all these things, and coming to CG image production. As a creative, it's incredibly liberating. This is what we say. It's like, creative freedom and production control. Because in CGI, you can say, okay, this is my car angle. This is the location that we have created in the computer. And now I want the sun to be exactly at this point to hit the car on the shoulder, give me a good design line. And the sun stays there. It doesn't move. It doesn't go away. It's just where you need it to be. With a much smaller crew, obviously, with much less risk, creative risk, and, keeping it secret risk, transportation risk, and, renewable energy running the computers is better than flying the car across the world a couple of times.
How did the idea for the scope come about?
It came to fruition around 2005. My family was growing and I lost a job to CGI. I had basically the creative director wanted to work with us, the marketing person wanted to work with us. Was a client that we, did a lot of projects with. But the decision was it needs to be done in CGI. And the studio that was doing the CGI said, oh, no, we cannot work with them. They have no experience with CGI. It's going to be too expensive. Pick somebody else. So that's when I was, I woke up. Let's put it that way, right? It's like, when you lose a project to a new competitor, you need to take a look at it. And as I said, the family was growing and my wife said, well, I didn't want to really marry a sailor because, car photographer's life is a sailor's life. You follow the sun, you're in fantastic places. It's a nice lifestyle, but it's not good for the family. You're in LA, southern Spain, Cape Town. That was the tour that we essentially were flying, right? Always there where the sun is.
I used to work on the auto show circuit, so I get it, my friend. Wonderful places, but you're gone 80-90% of the year.
Then, that was one of the reasons. So losing the job and, wanting to be more at home. Honestly, in the beginning, I didn't really know what I was doing. I mean, when I look back, the stuff I bought and the tech I selected was not smart.
Walk me through the scope today and the work that you're doing. Let's say that I come to you as a potential client, as a potential customer. Take me through the process.
What we mainly do is we work on launch projects. In those projects, the creative brief is liquid, let's say. Okay. Usually there's an agency involved and there is, some ideas on the table. But it's very different to a normal project because you have C-level involved. Okay. What we do is essentially creating the films and the photos that are used on car shows. I mean, car shows are coming back. But, there's a lot of online launches or they do their private events. In the end, it's the same thing. A CEO is going to be on stage and present the new car. Whoever it is, they're very invested in knowing what's going on, what it's going to look like. And that's why we developed a full CGI workflow, it's called. So the locations are CGI, the car is CGI. The simplest way to envision that is like a video game, but photorealistic. So we have the environment and we can control it. Because when the head of design or the CEO says, well, it's too bright, it's too dark, whatever the feedback is, you need to be able to create an alternative very quickly and show them. When you're working with people that are extremely busy, but still need to make the decision or want to make the decision, right? There is no, let's talk about and let's find a solution. It's yes, no, yes, no, yes, no.
Right.
And the only way to do it, we think, is to actually do it, show it, put it on the table and say, okay, you like it? And depending on the feedback, we decide if we go back to a new camera, if we change the color, whatever needs to be done to be able to answer their feedback. It's like a fast response situation, what we're doing.
Yeah, so that's the other side of this too.
Yeah.
So expanding upon that, CGI, you have more creative control. You don't have to have as large of a budget. You have this more efficient production process overall, especially on a tight timeline.
Well, we see there is huge benefits when you go what we call downstream. So you have the launch and then you want to extend on your asset collection. So the location that you have chosen, that we created for you, is still there in the same light situation. So you could say, launch is done, but now I want, more shots of the wheels. I need more interior shots. And once you get closer to going to market with the car and start creating the website content, right? The sales content, you can start producing these before you actually have a production car ready. Another option is, for example, you have the same shot, but you say, I want this in a red paint with a different trim. Or, I want the same car, but in a different light situation. Or I love the angle, but I don't want it to be on the beach. Keep the angle, take it to the city and show me what it looks like there. So you have these elements of a shot, camera angle, distance to the car, the trim of the car, the location, season. To keep it simple, there is more, but if you have those, if you have 5 elements, but you have the option to switch them out, that is very powerful because you can build upon existing images that everybody likes. Some manufacturers already built those solutions, but they take them to the website, and then you have an interactive solution. So essentially, you see a clip, you go there, and then you can open the doors, go in, change the trim, make it your own. This is what the manufacturers essentially want, and you've done this. You configured this car, and by the way, here's the dealership that has this configuration. Why don't you just go and buy it? Gives the manufacturers the opportunity to make the offer essentially.
Faruk, tell us more about the Scope City Tech Tool and its applications for the automotive industry.
So the Scope City Tech Tool is something that I'm very proud of my team that they actually put it together. We had, interestingly, during COVID, our business slowed down, which is counterintuitive because it would be like, nobody could travel, right? So why don't you use CGI? But interestingly, what happened, as you know, is there were not enough cars on the lots, right? Especially not new cars because they just didn't build them or, they didn't launch them at that time. And, we did other things, but we had some time on our hands, and CG City was always something that we wanted because, secret cars, you want to create locations for that. And we had something similar to like backlots. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the backlots that the Hollywood people have in LA. So it's like stretches of street rebuilt, little financial districts. So that's why they shoot shows. They would walk on a backlot. So we had small areas where we could create a few pictures, but you couldn't really travel with the car. You couldn't drive. So when we start doing, let's not just build a city, let's build something that, outputs cities. It's a machine. Essentially, it's a machine that outputs cities. And the main idea behind it is that manufacturers like to have their own environments. It's very common when it's, for private homes. So essentially you don't want to have the same private home behind your car that the other guy just used. But that happens constantly because how many great private homes are out there, right? So we would build custom private homes for manufacturers, but custom cities was always like, well, who's going to do a custom city? But to be able to do that, we're now capable of producing and outputting individual cities where we can say, okay, this city, the configuration of the buildings, the combination of the buildings, we can lock it down and say it's only yours, right? If you want to have it exclusively, we can make it exclusive. Also, the easiest way to say it's like a Lego system, right? So we have modules that software recombines. So it's easy for us to say this exact combination can only exist one time.
So if I'm an OEM and I have a vehicle that I'm launching and I want my own custom city to launch that vehicle in, that I'm guaranteed nobody else will have those same buildings and street layouts and, maybe the way the fog comes off the sewer and everything. And I can build my own city to create the unique experience around that particular vehicle for that particular launch.
Exactly, yeah. That is what we're offering. And then also in the next step, you could have the location as a connecting factor throughout your campaign, which in real life is not such an easy feat. And at the same time, we have this situation with the real life locations, obviously with very known buildings or signage or shops. These companies also have intellectual property. If you want to use certain buildings from New York in your campaign, you need to pay them. And most OEMs are like, well, yeah, we want to feel it. We want the New York feel, but I'm not selling New York. I'm selling my car.
Right.
It being generic is actually a feature that it's not an exact replica of New York, but it has the flavor of New York.
What is the legacy that you would like to have left at the end of your career?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. So I hope that some people will say, oh, you remember that guy that built the city and, they've always done stuff that everybody said it's undoable or not sane, let's say. And they've done it and it worked and they had a fun ride doing it. And this is how I feel. I feel very, very blessed to be allowed to do this.
See the links in the show notes to learn more about the scope and CGI. AutoVision News Radio is available on the digital antennas of Spotify, Apple Podcast, Podbean, and more. In Detroit, alongside Faruk Heplevent, I'm Carl Anthony, AutoVision News Radio.